Hey, what's going on, team? It's Ricky with Technical Solutions. Hope that you guys are all having an amazing Sunday. So today is our Sunday Stock Talk. This is pretty much where we come together as a team and I simply break down the top stocks that you guys all see value in. This is really a time where I spend to just further break down and share my thought process on maybe any stock that you see value in. And all you literally have to do is share your stock in the live chat that you should be able to see on the right hand of your screen. If you're not tuning in live, but you would like to tune in live for one of our future Sunday Stock Talks, all we ask you to do is make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, turn on your post notifications, and you will get alerted when it is that we go live. So I don't want to take too much of your guys' time with all the news that is happening. We have a lot of questions that a lot of people are asking. With the best of my ability, to the best of my ability, I'm going to make sure that I share my opinion in what it is that I feel like will happen with the overall market today. One of the first things that I want to share with you guys is, if possible, just let's try to be as respectful to one another in the live chat, right? We all have different opinions, we all have different views, but one of the things that I want to share with you is the most common question that we've been getting asked is, due to all these riots, will it have an effect on the overall market? You guys, please do your own due diligence and look a little bit more into it. But one of the things that we can see right on over here is if you look at /NQ, which is the NASDAQ future, which follows the overall NASDAQ and overall market, it's already down almost 1%. So in comparison, you guys can look into the news section and you can see that Dow is already down more than 200 points Sunday evening after the weekend of violent protests. I really think it just comes down to not so much of the vandalism or anything of that sort. It has to do more with the idea of uncertainty, right? It creates a lot of uncertainty for our economy. It's not so much about, I would say, targets getting vandalized or something of that aspect, but more of like it just shows uncertainty with what is going on. So to answer your very simple question, is it having a positive or negative influence to the overall market? Of course, this is something that you can see directly correlated with the overall news that is being shared and how the overall market is reacting. With that being said, I'm going to try to the best of my abilities break down whatever stocks you guys see value in. I want to keep this super short and sweet. Here in Arizona, there's a new curfew that they just implemented, and it starts today, and it starts at 8 o'clock. So I don't want to inconvenience any plans that you guys might have, which is the exact reason that I decided to go live a little bit earlier, so I don't inconvenience any of the plans that you guys might have with your friends or with your loved ones. So I wish you the best. I hope that you guys stay safe. I'm just going to do my part in breaking down the top stocks that you guys see value in, and let's try to do our part in enjoying what it is that we do. So let's go ahead and get started. I really hope that throughout this video you learned something new. I want to make sure that you understand that I'm simply sharing my opinion, and that if you have a different opinion, please feel free to share it in the comment section, and I really hope that we earn your thumbs up throughout this entire video. Let's go ahead and get started. So I appreciate you posting this in the ticker call out format. So let's start with this. This is from Hugo Perez. It's VTIQ. And every stock that we break down today, I'm going to make sure that we break it down in this little section right here. So all right, so VTIQ, for those that are unfamiliar with VTIQ, a lot of you guys, I'm sure if you guys have been keeping up with overall news, you guys can probably do a much better job explaining what overall VTIQ is. Pretty much there's a lot of talk between VTIQ. It's like I don't want to say, it's like an up and coming Tesla. It would be a competitor, right? In comparison to an electric car, right? They're not going to do an IPO. They're going to do a merger, which is they're going to be taking over VTIQ. So there's a lot of news with this. There's a lot of hype. One of the things that you could see is it has a very common resistance right around $30. Every single time that it approaches that general area, it doesn't hold up above $30 for a very long period of time based off of previous highs. One of the things that I just want to remind you is the overall volume and the overall demand has, based off of when there was a lot of momentum and a lot of news and a lot of hype, it has died off. It's not as relevant with everything that is going on. So when there's less demand, it makes sense that the overall price action can most likely drop, right? So I wouldn't be so surprised that if everyone's main focus is not VTIQ this week, right? With everything that's going on, let's just make sure that we understand that there is a lot of hype with VTIQ. I think, competition only instills creativity. With that in mind, I still think that VTIQ and overall Nikola has a lot to prove. So I'm going to set an alert on both sides depending on where it continues to go. Just based off of previous highs, it makes sense that there's a very common resistance level right around $30. It looks like it's a little bit more on the overbought side, and it definitely has a little bit more downside than it does upside based off of previous patterns. So I appreciate you sharing that. And again, that's VTIQ. So the next one that we're going to be breaking down is ticker symbol SVM. What's going on, Kevin? So SVM. All right, so one of the things that I really like to share is when direction is not super clear, it makes it a little bit difficult to understand where to properly buy and sell, right? So with that being said, I do agree that SVM has done a pretty consistent job of showing signs of an uptrend, with the overall idea that it is not currently aggressively making higher highs. There's a strong resistance right around $4.50. If anything, based off of low points, high points, low points, high points, low points, high points, low points, high points, I find it to be more overbought. The RSI and the MACD can support that. And it just wouldn't be much of a surprise. So if you're going to do your part in trading something as it's consolidating, just make sure you do your part in getting in when it makes sense and when it's a better deal, right? So if you can get in for a better deal, even if things do begin to go south, you can do a better job managing your risk with a smaller percentage loss, right? If it breaks below the SMA line, you can cut losses as there would be a breakup pattern in comparison to trying to buy now, hoping that it continues to drop, but overall it has more downside margin than it does based off of previous highs. So that's definitely something I would wait out for. I think it's more on the overbought side. I don't think it's a good deal. I like that it's not consistently selling off based off of recent patterns, but it's just not good enough of a deal for the margin of potential profit to be worth it. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Let's go on Ferris. So this is TQs. So this, of course, is something that it would only make sense that a lot of people are going to be asking. One of the things that I want to remind you is that if the overall market is down, TQs is going to be down as well, right? So TQs is the correlating ETF for NASDAQ. We've talked about this multiple times before. And looking at /NQ, we can already see that it's down a little bit over 0.5%. TQs being a triple leverage ETF, right? It would then in a sense be down 3 times that. So just be aware of current market direction for /NQ, which can then better guide you with TQs and its inverse ETF SQs. So I'll leave it at that, but I appreciate you sharing that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So we have a lot of people sharing their stocks, but not a lot posting it in the ticker call out format. So I appreciate Joel, you posting it, ticker symbol AMD. So let's go ahead and break this down. We're going through these pretty quickly, so I appreciate you guys being so patient with me. Very common resistance. So I like calling out very common resistance levels, and we can see right around $56. It does hit $56, but it doesn't do a very good job holding above that. So the reason that I'm pointing that out is I like to identify where we see a very common resistance range, right? There is no question that we now recently broke below the SMA line. It's trying to indicate signs of a potential reversal, but we're still trading below the SMA line, so I think it has a lot to prove. And with everything that is going on over the weekend with the riots breaking out and how that's having a negative influence on the overall market, it wouldn't be much of a surprise if we see a lot of big billion-dollar companies also just see a negative influence for a short period of time. So please make sure that you are aware of that. I'm going to set my alert for the break above the EMA line. If you think that the upside margin outweighs the downside, all power to you. AMD just doesn't meet my criteria with that. I like how it's been consistently, trying to be bullish. Because it recently broke below the SMA line, the upside margin does not outweigh the downside potential. So because of that, I personally, it wouldn't meet my criteria. But one of the things that we love to remind you is that just because something doesn't meet my criteria doesn't mean that it shouldn't meet yours, right? We're all wired in different ways. We could all see value in different ways, and you should be empowered for that. So Steven, I just want to remind you, so I'm going to put you on timeout. You can post this literally 1,000 times, and I will not break it down if you don't post it in the ticker call out format. So and I don't mean to be a butthead. I don't mean to be rude. I'm doing this for your best interest. When you plan out, and you can ask anyone, when you plan out your trade, so what happened? So when you plan out your trade, it is so much better for yourself as you do a more proper job understanding what you're getting yourself into, since you're planning out the entire trade. So it is for your best interest that I ask you to break this down. So I hope that we could all respect that. M-TEM. Alrighty. So, all right. So overall, very common resistance at around $18. I think that we can all agree to that. It has had a very common support level at the SMA line. One of the things that we love to remind you is that patterns tend to repeat themselves. They don't always have to. I'm going to keep this one very simple. I'm going to set my alert for the break above the EMA line. I do agree it's more on the oversold side, but it's showing no indication of an overall reversal. So no indication of it pushing up above the EMA line, no indication of it making higher highs just yet. Patterns tend to repeat themselves. They don't have to. Although it has bounced here before and hit previous highs, it doesn't have to bounce there again. So confirmation is key, and I like to keep things super simple. If you're so certain that something is going to bounce and reverse, challenge yourself and just wait for confirmation, right? And you can set your alerts and follow up with it when it begins to make sense. So what's going on, Michael? I appreciate you tuning on in. Thank you again for taking time out of your Sunday to join us. So we got XSPA. So, okay, so I did hear about this one. First of all, this is a penny stock. Quick little disclaimer. I don't trade penny stocks. I feel like they come at a higher form of risk. We have a lot of beginner traders that watch this channel. I'm not here to tell you you can't make money off of penny stocks. I'm a big believer that you can make money off of anything. When there's a transaction happening, someone is making money, right? With that being said, I think that these come at a higher form of risk, and because there's a lot of beginners, I don't necessarily like to talk too much about them. I like to warn people about there is potential with the risk involved as well. So please make sure that you understand that. There is no question that there is a lot of hype. You can tell just with the volume bars. Had a positive influence with it, obviously shot this thing right up to almost or above $1. And now it's losing its demand, it's losing its volume, and I think that it's only a matter of time based off previous pumps that it just pulls right back down to 40 cents. I don't really care what the news is. This just happens so often. I personally would not trade it. If you trade it, all power to you. It's just there's a great form of risk trading lower cap stocks. It's not impossible to trade. It just comes at a greater form of risk. So don't ever trade based off other people's opinion. If you see so much value in this, just make sure that the overall direction is in your favor and that you have the proper form of risk management. You can definitely make it or break it with these specific type of stocks. Again, not saying that it's impossible to make money. I'm just saying that it's very, very difficult, especially if you're a beginner trader. So I hope that we can approach that with an open mind. So what's going on, Alex? I appreciate you posting this in the ticker call out format. So we got ticker symbol NK. Here we go, ticker symbol NK. Overall, it's been consistently recovering ever since, of course, the overall unfortunate pandemic. And we could see that it hit overall highs of about $8. It's consistently and aggressively been pushing up. I see a big spike in volume, which caused it to aggressively push up. There had to be some form of news. Now it looks like it's correcting itself and it's testing this EMA line. So I'm excited to see if we break below it or actually continue to hold above. This is showing a lot of signs of just manipulation right now. There's a lot of hype, a lot of recent demand, and a lot of recent volume. So because of that, would it meet my criteria? This is definitely a higher risk, higher reward. But if it meets your criteria and it's something that you want to follow up with, add it to your watch list, and we can kind of go from there. So, alrighty, we got ticker symbol LMNX. Alrighty, out of all the ones that have been broken down as of right now, I do have to say that this one is the one that I find most attractive. Let me remind you, just because I personally see value in something does not mean that you should. This thing can go completely south, but the reason that I find this to be so attractive is I like how consistent it's been. It's been trading above the SMA line for a couple months. It's been making higher highs. It just recently hit highs of $40.20. This had to do with overall earnings and then aggressively pulled back and dropped. So it corrected itself. Now it's trying to find forms of support. I set my alert already for waiting for confirmation of a reversal, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to set my alert. If it continues to sell off, then I can remove it from my watch list. but if it actually indicates signs of an uptrend, then the reason that I find this to be so attractive is I can manage my risk once I get confirmation and the downside margin is not as great as the upside potential. And this is where I find the golden ratio to be ideal for me. Again, just because it meets my criteria does not mean that it has to meet yours. If you see value in this, feel free to follow up with it. You can add it to your watch list, set your alerts, and just decide to see what you do with it. So here we go. We got Mika mRNA. Alrighty. All right, so it came from highs of over on $94, aggressively corrected itself down to the SMA line. Looks like it's, so as of right now, it's looking like it's having a very aggressive bounce from lows of about sub $50 and now hitting highs of 60. I think that it pushed up enough that if it corrects itself, it wouldn't be much of a surprise. And I do see why it is that you're paying attention to it, because it has been consistently bullish, and based off of previous highs, it makes sense on why that's attractive to you. So it moved so quickly that it might come at a little bit of a greater form of risk. Wow, natural gas is dropping pretty hard right now. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to that. So that's pretty crazy to see. But again, alerts are set. And I actually, I do have to say, I've heard a lot of news about mRNA. There is a lot of hype behind it. So it doesn't surprise me that it's doing well. It's just, it comes at a greater form of risk. Just understand that. So I know I sound like a broken record, guys, but we have a lot of beginner traders here, and I just want to make sure that we do our part in, not just focusing on the offense, but also thinking about the defense, especially from someone that's just getting started, right? So it looks like that was the wrong ticker. Alrighty, let's go ahead and do two more. Again, I don't want to take too much of your guys' time. Let's go ahead and let's see what we got going on. So, all right. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to keep this one super short. Overall, it was recovering. It's been hitting the same resistance. This isn't indicating any signs of an uptrend. I can set my alerts and follow up with it. But again, it's almost, if you guys could see, it did a really good job selling off. It found a support. It did a really good job recovering. And now it's kind of plateaued. And it normally plateaus right before it begins to descend once again. So because of that, I just, it wouldn't really surprise me if it begins to sell off after it's been getting rejected from that like $52 price point so often. So I appreciate you asking for me to break this one down. So Ferris is asking for SNE. I appreciate that. So this is going to be our 10th one. And we have a couple people that I think are tuning in pretty late. So this is Sony. A lot of consolidation here. You guys could almost see that almost every single time that it approaches this general area. It's not perfect, but all I'm saying is almost every single time that it approaches around 66 to about $67, it hits a resistance. It tries to break, hits a resistance. Tries to break, hits a resistance. During aftermarket hours, they hit the same price point, right around $66. So just be aware. Patterns tend to repeat themselves. They don't always have to. I can set my alert here, and if it actually begins to indicate signs of an uptrend, then great, we can follow up with it. Until then, this is more of a resistance level than it is a support level. And if your job is to try to buy something for a good deal to sell it to a profit, it really wouldn't make too much sense to buy something as it's approaching previous highs. Just food for thought on that one. But again, let me go ahead, and we still have a lot of people asking for breakdowns. So CHR, I thought I'd try to break that one down, but it wasn't a valid ticker. Yeah, CHR does not pop up on mine. So I do apologize. I don't know if it's a different, yeah, CHR, it does not pop up on mine. Okay, but I wanted to kind of like end it with some quick words, and we could end it there. So for all those that are tuning in right now and are tuning in a little bit late, one of the things that we do want to share with you is if you're asking the question, are the riots that happened over the weekend having a negative influence on the overall market? You could read the news. The Dow is already down 200 points. This is where we closed at, for those that are newer to reading charts, this is where we closed at on Friday. This is where we're at right now. So the futures market already opened. They open at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. They're already down almost 1%, 0.75%. So is it having a negative influence on the overall market? The answer is, based off of what we're seeing right now, yes. Is it going to continue to or have a long-term negative effect? I don't know. I've never experienced anything like this in my lifetime. So I'm just going to do my part to stay informed. and try to prepare myself and focus on overall market direction. We're not here to predict reversals. We're not here to predict what's going to happen with the market. Especially as day traders, it is our job to show up every single day and take advantage of opportunities that make sense to us. If you're newer to trading, focus on the learning aspect and not so much about the making money part. Money comes later. Focus on learning and enjoy the process. It is challenging, it is difficult, but like we've shared before, nothing in life worth doing or having should ever come easy. And trust me, in my experience, the stock market is no exception. So that's really just it. I'm excited to trade live with the Learn Plan Profit Group tomorrow. I'm excited to follow up with all of you guys and see what we make of it. Reminder, regardless if you make a profit or if you take a loss in the stock market, let's make it a positive outcome. If you make a mistake and you take a loss, let's learn from it. Watch that position size. If you're learning how to trade, you shouldn't be trying to make it or break it. There's so many amazing ways on how you can learn how to trade for free, but you really need to take time to learn, right? So let's remind ourselves that it takes time. It is a work in progress, and I'm really excited to see. Whoa, natural gas is really dropping. But overall, I'm really excited to see the overall progress that you guys make within the next couple of weeks, within the next couple of months, and within the next couple of years. All we want to remind you is do something today that your future self can thank you for. So without further ado, I appreciate your guys' time. Hopefully I didn't take too much of your guys' time on this Sunday. For all those that are out there, at least in Arizona, they established a curfew that starts at 8 p.m. Please stay safe out there, and let's just do our part and, trying to make the most of what it is that, the opportunities that are presented to us. I wish you guys the best. Stay safe, and like always, I really hope that I earned your thumbs up. If you guys want to stay connected, we do run the largest free Facebook group in the world who trade in the stock market, and that's going to be that second link down below. Like always, team, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note.